Okay. Welcome to Silent Book Club Author Chats. Thank you guys so much for being here. My name, again, is Abby Lyle Taylor. I'm the new events director of Silent Book Club and the host of Silent Book Club Online. Vera and Catherine, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to chat with you tonight. So,
hi. Here in spirit.
Here in voice, here in audio. So Silent Book Club is not your traditional book discussion club. It's actually more of a BYO book. And since not everyone on the call tonight has read your books, especially since Vera's doesn't come out till September 7th, is that correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. So now I got to cheat.
Yes.
And got
Commonwealth is the 9th. Yes.
Perfect. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves and a little bit about your book? And Catherine, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Okay. So I'm Catherine Adel West, author of the book Saving Ruby King. I was born and raised in Chicago. And Saving Ruby King started out really took me 5 years to write the book. Essentially, Saving Ruby King is about the lengths one friend will go through to save her friend Ruby when a murder upends their tight-knit community. It's like a book about forgiveness and generational trauma and how to get over that. And, I do some really interesting things in terms of storytelling, but, we'll talk about that later.
All right, Vera.
Okay, hopefully everyone can hear me. My name is Vera Kurian. I have terrible internet. I've been living in Washington, D.C. for most of my life, although I went to grad school in New York and LA. I'm a social psychologist. That's my background. I have a PhD. I don't do clinical work, by the way, because I know my book is about psychopaths, but it is probably the 5th or 6th novel that I've written as an adult. I used to write literary fiction, and then I kind of always had one foot in genre. But the book is about an incoming freshman named Chloe, who is a diagnosed psychopath who is entering a special program at a university in Washington, D.C., where 7 undergraduates get a free ride to college in exchange for donating their minds and bodies to science for those 4 years. But really, she's there to hunt down and kill a boy from her past. But what she doesn't know is that someone on campus is hunting down the 7 psychopaths one by one. So, I mean, it's definitely a thriller, but it's kind of got some dark humor to it.
That's very true. Very true. Okay, so my first question for you is, this is the debut novel for both of you. What is the most surprising thing that you've learned on the road to being published? Vera,
I'll go first. Yeah. I'll go first. I just didn't want to, So I think one of the most surprising things that I learned is how little patience I have. Like, think you're patient, and you're like, oh yeah, I want to be an author and I want to write full time, and this is gonna be great, and I'm gonna get a book and then it's gonna go out. And what nobody tells you from when your book gets sold to when it gets out can be like a year and a half, and then that can vary. So my book, Saving Ruby King, got acquired, in January of 2019. It didn't come out till June 2020. So wow. I thought I had patience. I was lying to myself because everybody else in my family knows I have no patience. But I realized how I had to wait, and how the waiting was worth it, because when it came out, I was just overwhelmed, and I was really happy with the product and the response and everything like that. But I have no chill, as you can already tell, but that's another thing.
All right, what about you, Vera?
I think I kind of thought I knew a fair amount about the publishing world just from like reading and getting things published as short stories, but I kind of didn't know about like the machinery behind it and like the extent to which you go from being an author, just a creative person who created a book, to having to do all these other things that are more like marketing and like, you know, speaking to people in publicity or marketing or like selling the book. You're a salesman, you know, not, I haven't written anything for a few months because I've been working on, you know, getting the book out. But I also didn't know the extent to which like all of these other things are happening in the background, like, you know, librarians are reading the book in advance and then voting on it, and then independent booksellers, and like how all of these people come together and are like an enormous part of how successful your book will be.
Wow. Yeah. You think, you know, kind of as an outsider, as someone who's like reading books constantly, you're thinking like, oh yeah, I totally know how this goes. And I didn't even know about the stuff you're just talking about with the groups of people reading it and voting on it. And yeah. I mean, the public just has no idea that that stuff happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, both of you have the same editor at Park Row Books. That's correct, right? And you love them. Tell us about the relationship between author and editor.
Vera?
I think, I mean, I have been edited before in like academic papers and then like kind of technical scientific things. And then just as a writer, I've been to a lot of workshops, but those are all like different than having like an editor for a book. So I mean, I didn't know what to expect because this is my debut novel. So I was like, you know, I always feel like I want to make the book the best thing it can be while still maintaining, you know, my original vision. And I felt like at no point was that ever like in question. Like, of course, it would be like my book, but I think her suggestions did bring the book to the next. I just kind of need to sit and kind of cogitate on it a little, like, how do I do that? Or like I wouldn't quite understand why she was asking for something until I probed a little and was like, oh, that's why. And then I could like figure out a way to make it work. So I think it's a really like interesting and like fruitful relationship, because it's like you need someone there to like push you to the next level of like what could be.
For me, Laura Brown, who's our editor at Park Row Books, Saving Ruby King was the first book I ever wrote, like the first book I ever attempted to write. So I had no clue what, you know, developmental editing really was. I just thought like, hey, I'm gonna cross some I's, dot some T's, add some commas, and you know, that's gonna be it. And then Laura, and I love Laura, and I know she's watching this. She sent me
Hi, Laura.
Hi, Laura. She sent me a 30-page edit letter. And after I picked myself up off the floor, because I was freaking out, I was like, what the hell? How am I going? Oh Lord. I'm like, I thought she liked the book. What the heck? I don't know what I was doing. Like, so like I you know, I'm mildly panicked, and I say mildly when I mean I completely panicked. But the thing is, like, Laura's so sweet. So she was just like, oh no, I'm just like completely like I'm just very thorough, and I'm just very detailed, and literally once I calmed myself down and printed it out, I was literally able to go like piece by piece, you know. So I was able to do the overarching things first, and then I was able to do like basically like the other line edits, and you know, and for the smaller things. I think that in finding an editor is a lot like finding a literary agent, because like you have to have chemistry, and the editor has to know like what makes your book tick, and they have to be passionate as to why they like it, because that's the only way they're going to be able to look and find like the things that just aren't quite working. And you know, because of Laura, I feel that my book ended up being like so much better than what I had given to her originally. So, you know, just, you know, working with somebody who recognized that you was a baby in the publishing game was really good. That 30-page edit letter still haunts my dreams. But I love you, Laura. I love you.
yeah, I can understand how that would be overwhelming.
And we only had like 6 weeks. Like I only had 6 weeks to make all of those edits. So when Laura told me, I was like, so like, when do you expect me to get to? I'm thinking she's thinking like 2-3 months. She said 6 weeks. I'm so happy she couldn't see my face.
That's when you don't want to be on a Zoom call.
No, I was just like, oh Lord, oh no, Jesus, oh Lord, what am I gonna do?
Well, let's see. You guys are both at different points in the timeline of your book's life cycle. So, Catherine, your book was published in 2020 and is now being released in paperback. And Vera, yours is just about to come out on September 7th. So, Catherine, do you have any words of wisdom for Vera on what she might experience in the coming weeks and months, especially because your book was also released in the middle of this delightful thing we're calling a pandemic. So yeah, what can Vera expect in the next couple weeks and months?
So I think a lot of people looked at the pandemic as kind of this thing like, oh, that must suck. And it sucks for you that your book, I was like, my book sold, but all right, you be blessed. So Vera, what I want to stress to you is like enjoy it, because like really your debut day and really like the first week like goes by in a flash. So really try to enjoy it. Do something like really nice for yourself. I mean, the things that you were able to accomplish, you wrote a book, got an agent, got that book sold. We're women of color. The odds are already stacked against us, right? But we were able to, get a book out into the world. So I would just say, please enjoy yourself. And I know that maybe, like talking to media and people like isn't always fun. I get it. But like there are definitely ways to make it fun, even like you're gonna get asked like the same question a million times and everything like that. But like it's like that's the name of the game. But enjoy yourself, make it fun, and be able to pivot. So if something kind of like were to happen, like a pandemic, just kind of be open to like all the different changes and all the things that can get thrown our way. But like I said, as women of color, things get thrown our way every day. So I mean, it's not a problem. It's like breathing to us. So I would just say enjoy yourself, be ready to pivot, have fun. And like I said, just do something nice for yourself. I got myself macaroons, whatever it is you want to do. So
I think that's a really good point, because like at first I was supposed to have an in-person launch at my dream venue and they canceled it because of Delta.
Yeah.
I was so depressed for a week. And then I was like, no, I am spending so much money on a party and drinking a lot of champagne
but not during the interview, not during.
See.
We don't ask questions, I mean, we're big wine drinkers here at Silent Book Club. So.
My book is the best book ever. Y'all don't even know.
I will be sober. Yes.
Well, so Vera, how are you feeling right now? Are you excited? Are you overwhelmed? Or do you feel like all your dreams are coming true? Because I feel like that's what I would feel like when I have like a book that I wrote in my hands and know it's getting into other people's.
I think the month before is filled with a lot of anxiety and like, I'll be really honest that the minute I got the book deal, I started getting really intense anxiety about something else bad happening to even it out, which is nonsensical. And that's just a anxiety disorder. And this book deal happened in the middle of the pandemic and like, if you recall 2020, so many weird things happened that it was just like, oh, okay, giant pandemic, book deal, now Steve Harvey's secretary, crazy thing you told me, I would have been like, oh, okay. So it never felt like real until I got like the arc. And then I had to like sign a bunch of real books. And I'm like, okay, I guess it's really gonna happening because they printed the book and they're not gonna take it back at this point.
Right.
But there is this like sheen of unreality over everything. And I think part of that is just the past 2 years have been like.
Yeah, that's understandable. Although I feel like that is going to be a feeling you're going to have, even if we weren't in the middle of the pandemic, like that it's just unreal, that it's, yeah. Okay, so Vera, let's talk about your book. Let me show it again. Never Saw Me Coming.
This is the hardback. Yes. Shiny.
Yeah, very shiny. Yeah, I have the ARC.
Paperback.
So my question, clearly your PhD in social psychology played a huge role in this. What made you want to focus on that? What made you want, okay, now I'm going to say a word that I've only read, and so I had to look up how to say it, and let's see if I get it right. Psychopathy.
Yeah, psychopathy.
Yes. Again, book nerd problems. I've only ever seen it in a book, never had to say it out loud. So yeah. What made you want to focus it on that?
I think, I mean, I've always been interested in psychology, like obviously, but I'm also a big true crime and thriller and horror movie fan where psychopaths, you know, feature pretty frequently. And they're often just portrayed as like deranged people who are sadistic, which is actually not what psychopathy is. So I actually had a little bit of knowledge about what it was because of just from reading, taking abnormal psych. And then I had heard about podcast about a treatment facility for juvenile boys with psychopathy, and it's very difficult to treat. But someone had developed a treatment regimen where they would get them to change their behavior on the basis of putting everything in terms of rewards. So you wouldn't say, you know, don't hit your brother because it hurts them, because they wouldn't care because they don't have empathy. But if you can refrain from hitting your brother for X amount of time, I will give you 10 minutes of TV or something. So I thought that was so interesting. And then I thought like, oh, what if there was a whole school of people like that? And then I thought that was too much. So then I made it
a school of psychopaths.
I just, you know, someone's going to query a book like that. Like,
yes.
So I then made it into like 7. I was like, well, it could kind of feel like a locked room, but not really. And then kind of put them all together at the same time and see how they play off each other would be really fun.
And it is, it's killing me not to be able to talk about it more because I've read it. I'm trying to refrain myself because yes, the dynamics between them is amazing and feels very real too. So I'm a sucker for a campus book, campus read, especially this time of year. I'm like fall, back to school, bouquet of pencils. What made you want to set it on a college campus? And do you feel like that setting gives you more inventive options for the characters?
I love a college novel. Like I'll read like any college novel. And it's, if any of you are fans of Veronica Mars, I was a huge fan of that show. And season 3 took place in college, and I would have watched 10 more seasons of them at college.
Agreed.
And you know, that was the last season I acknowledge. I'll leave it at
that. That's a whole other phone call.
Yeah. The college campus kind of creates this like insular setting where the mystery can take place. It's in a city, but it's still like taking place on campus. And then I think I really enjoyed my time on college campuses, and I think people like it's for the same reason people like going to boarding school novels, is that you're in this like insulated location, and it's the setting really does become part of the story. I mean, one of the first things I did is I drew a campus map, so I knew where everything was. So you would feel like you were there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't even get me started on Veronica Mars. I'm actually going to go over to Catherine real quick because of what you said about the setting being such a piece of the book. So I want to talk about Catherine's book. Let's Saving Ruby King. Hardcover. Excellent. I was shocked and then super excited to see that one of our characters' point of views in the chapters, so the chapters are all different people speaking, so you get to hear, you know, behind the scenes and in their heads. One of those was an actual place.
Yeah.
So will you talk about that a little bit more and what prompted you to do that? I think it's genius, by the way, because that way we get history. You're like, yeah, thank you. We get these histories we may not be able to see otherwise. I just found it fascinating. So what made you choose that direction?
So when I first wrote Saving Ruby King, it went through a lot of different reiterations. And like I said, it was the first book I ever wrote. So then my silly behind decides, hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write a multi-POV book with a non-linear narrative, because like, why not for the first book, whoever decides to write, like, let's just try everything. Let's just try everything, right?
Yes.
So like I said, I went through a lot of different reiterations. I work, hopefully I'll be a full-time writer soon, but I work as an editor. And the good thing about working as editors is that you have a lot of different friends who, you know, write books and things of that nature. Since, like I said, I had no clue what I was doing, I would have some of my friends read different iterations of the book. One of my friends, one of my coworkers' names was Luke Salazar. And I read his screenplay and he read my, you know, well, the portion of the book that I had done. And then he says, you know what would be a good idea? If like you make the church talk. And you know, like the movie Shakespeare in Love, where like Romeo and Juliet didn't just start out as Romeo and Juliet. There was like a lot of different influences. And then Ben Affleck is like, Romeo and Juliet. That's the thought. You know what I mean? And plus like Judi Dench is in it. Anyway, Saving Ruby King was a lot of people kind of coming together and helping me figure out what the heck I'm supposed to do with this. And when Luke suggested making the church a character, like I immediately jumped on it. Like I hadn't read a book where that had been done. Like, and this is embarrassing. When I decided to do multi-POV, I thought it had never been done before because I started writing this book in 2012. And in 2012, guess what comes out? The 12 Tribes of Hattie by Ayanna Mathis. So I literally almost stopped writing the book. I literally was just like, I'm just not going to write this. Like, I read the 12 Tribes of Hattie. I can't write like that. That's the idea I had. Don't nobody want to read it. But, you know, Luke said, just make the church a character. Like, and I had never seen that done. And plus, I really love writing in a kind of timeless classical style. And I wasn't able to do that with Layla. I'm like, Layla's a 24-year-old Black woman, so is Ruby. Like, they're not going to talk like that. But you know who can? Timeless Church. So I was able to like a lot of different influences. Like, so my Shakespearean and my Oscar Wilde and my James Baldwin and my Octavia Butler and my Maya Angelou, I was able to use all of those things and like just make Calvary, which is the name of the church, a character in the book. And I'm so happy I did it. I really am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it gives you a lot of insight into characters that, yeah, you just wouldn't get to see otherwise. So yeah,
but it would be, and it would be just a ton of exposition and info dumping, which would not be
right,
and it would like jack up the pace of the book. Whereas if you have somebody kind of like sitting you down and telling you a story, it's different. Right. Unfortunately, it's like a one-trick pony, and I can't do that in any other books. It's just like, this shit came out with book number 5, and now the lamp is talking. Like, I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure you could find a reader for that. I'm not gonna lie.
Abby, don't send me off. Don't do that. That's not nice. Don't send me off.
So Vera, let's come back to you and ask about psychopaths again. And you touched on it a little bit earlier with one of your answers where, like you said, they're portrayed in such a psychopath way in the movies and books that we already are reading and watching. How did you decide that you wanted to make, you know, some of them come off a little bit that way, but then some of them come off quote unquote normal? What made you decide to have some of them seem kind of off kilter and some more steady in life?
Yeah, I had done some research on the topic, and what I wanted is for every single one of them to be different, but they're all meet the criteria for it. And Chloe, the main character, who's a psychopath, clearly doesn't think there's anything wrong with her. She thinks she's fabulous. I think a lot of readers think she's fabulous, but she is someone who isn't quite self-aware to see what limitations it puts on her, but she's absolutely someone who uses it to her advantage when she wants to. There's others in the book, like there's another one I won't name, who is trying to make themselves a better person. And are they succeeding is another question. And then there's another one that just doesn't care. So, I mean, I wanted to show sides of it, but I mean, the reality is, like they say, somewhere between 1% to 3% of the American population has psychopathic traits. And like a lot of those people are not out there committing murders. They're walking around you, just regular people. They talk a lot about corporate America, that you can succeed in corporate America if you have some of these traits. If you've ever seen, there's like a documentary about Bernie Madoff where he's in prison. He starts blaming his victims for allowing him to take their money, and genuinely is like angry at them. And that's, all different types. And I wanted to show that variety. And some of them are kind of lovable and charming. And that was kind of my goal in the book, is to be like, oh, I don't want to root for this person, but I can't help it.
No, it's true. And in fact, there were times when I was reading where I thought, oh, I have some of those traits. So it's nice because then you can see these psychopaths as, just like you said, like it's not some strange, insane person again, and like we've seen in the movies and in books. So it was nice. It gave you that much more of a human connection to them, which I loved. I thought that was so great. Did we lose Vera? Oh, there you go. Now you're moving again.
I'm here. Okay.
All right. So let's see. We are going to head over back to Catherine. So in Saving Ruby King, Alice's death, this is not a spoiler. That's not a spoiler. I need to put that out there. It is dismissed by the police as another act of violence on Chicago's South Side. And I'm sure that was influenced by our current times, unfortunately. Was there a specific incident that sparked this storyline for you? Or was it just like the overall climate of our world right now that made you want to speak to this?
So I remember reading or being posed this question. And the thing is, the South Side of Chicago was a brilliant, beautiful place to live. First of all, let me just put that out there. I live on the South Side of Chicago here right now. I think the thing is, people mistake and they're like, oh, was it current events? And no, I'm a Black woman who lives in America. Like, it has nothing to necessarily do with current events. This is just my life. It is my history. It is the things that I've gone through, my parents have gone through, my brothers, my cousins, my grandparents, etc. So this hasn't been current. This is everyday life. This isn't just like, oh, was it this? Oh, was it that? Once again, I started writing this book in 2012.
That's true.
10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So obviously this, wasn't, there wasn't like one thing that sparked it. It was just the things that African Americans and people of color have to go through in a racist society, with a police force that has, underlying racial issues that they don't want to acknowledge, you know what I mean? But like at the same time, expect us to trust them. And we're like, this similarity in what y'all are asking us to do versus what you guys do. So there wasn't like any kind of like current event. It was just the life that I live. And, and I think in writing Saving Ruby King, I also wanted to show that African-American life, African-American living is not a monolith. We're not all one thing. Black lives are not a monolith. Black, experiences, religion, it's not a monolith. Like there are like an amalgam, a myriad of different like experiences. And I think I definitely like needed to get that across. But no, it wasn't like one current event. It was literally just my life and the lives of others around me, period, point blank.
Yeah. And it's just finally coming more to public light right now, I think, which is what prompted me to think that.
Yeah, but see,
right.
That's the problem. It's coming more to a public light for like white America. We already knew about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like,
yeah.
Like let's like, we can, like we already knew what was up. Like now it's like, oh, this is what's up. And we're like, yeah, that's what the heck we've been saying for like 400 years. But thank you now for acknowledging and appreciate that.
Yeah, no, so. I totally understand. Yeah, I can't imagine. And yeah. So next question. Friendship, particularly Black female friendship, is a critical piece of your story. Was this influenced by women in your own life?
I'm what my mom calls male partial. So a lot of my like men.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like I always have this joke about when I get married, like I don't have bridesmaids, I have men of honor. Like I literally just have like a bunch of guys. Like my brother is like essentially my best friend. Like I just have like a lot of men that I deal with in my life. Black people weren't something that I was really able to attain when I was younger. I think because I just wasn't the girl that a lot of girls I guess wanted to be friends with. I was like weird, and I like different music. Like I listen to Rod Stewart. I don't care. Rod Stewart and Phil Collins are bomb. Like for real, they bomb. You know what I mean? But like along with Mary J. Blige and the Tribe Called Quest. So like I just wasn't like what a lot of people like thought Black should be, even Black people. But once again, Black is not a monolith, right? So like I don't have a female friend that I grew up with. I don't, right? But what I wrote with Black female friendship is what I always hoped for when it came to Ruby and Layla. It's something that like I always wanted and how I always imagined Black female friendships to be. Now that I'm like in my 40s, and yes, I know I look like I'm in my 20s, but now I'm in my 40s, I'm able to now have those types of like relationships with Black women. And when I tell you that it is intense and it's wonderful, it is intense and it is wonderful. Like a couple of my girls are texting right now, and it's taking everything in me to be like, girl, what you do? What happened? Do you need me to come over? Like, do you need an alibi? Did something happen? What's going on? So, now that I'm able to experience it, I'm so like grateful and I'm so thankful. But I think, the relationships between Ruby and Layla was what I've always imagined or hoped Black female friendship will be for me, and finally it is. And then in terms of the other Black females, I depended a lot on my mom and how she interacted with her sisters, and how my grandma kind of interacted with my aunts. So.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was super jealous of their friendship. I like you. What is the phrase? The male what?
Male partial. I'm male partial.
Male partial. Yeah, I'm the same way. I grew up mostly with guy friends, and same in my 40s, I am learning to love my female friendship. So when I was reading their relationship and what they had, I was loving it. I was super jealous of not real people. That happens.
Isn't that always the way? That is always the way. Let's be real.
It's true. So I'm going to take a side moment to read one of the comments that I see that popped up from Janet, that said, Catherine, thanks for this open honesty without apologizing and watering it down. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Appreciate
you.
Yeah,
I thought that was awesome and needed to be said out loud. So, all right. Oh, I already asked you about the church. That was my next official question, but I had to, connect them with you guys. Okay. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
For the lightning round? Or do we have, I should ask, do we have any questions from the chat? Josh, do you have any that we can bring out before we bring out the lightning round questions?
I guess the most important is for Vera, and that was, is Vera afraid of any of the characters that she created?
Oh, I like that question. Oh, Frozen Vera. Oh, there you go.
No, no, not that I'm scary. I was raised. Oh, can you not hear me? Oh, okay.
No,
sorry, my internet's so bad. I was going to say no. I was raised on horror, and almost nothing scares me that's fictional. But I do think people will find some of the content of the book disturbing from what I hear.
As a sensitive soul, yes, but not so much that I couldn't get past it. It was okay. Yeah, no, you're good. You're good.
Oh, I'm gonna read it. Gonna read it like at night with all the lights turned off. Like I can't wait personally. Like
that is the best time to read it. Definitely. All right. And then I believe I saw, yes. So I had a direct question from Sally L. And she actually would like to hear about finding your literary agent, because you guys had talked about it earlier. What was that like? Maybe the process a little bit.
Yeah, so for me, it took me 9 months to find a literary agent. My process, I have a friend, Kevin Savoy. Once again, I know I want to be a full-time writer, but I have like no clue how to go about it. So he taught me like what a query letter was and how to interact with agents and things of that nature. There's also things you have for marginalized authors like pitch contests on Twitter. One was DV Pit. So you put up a pitch, agents like it, you send them your query letter, they let you know yay or nay.
Nice.
One of these particular pitches, I had some interaction on. One of them was my agent. Mind you, I still did cold querying. So like you just don't depend on one thing to get you an agent. Like you multitask. Okay. So don't depend on one thing, do a lot of different things. So she liked it. And then I got an offer from an indie publishing company to publish the book. And as much as I wanted my book published, I just wanted it to be traditionally published. Nothing against indie publishers. There were some awesome, great indie publishers putting out fabulous books. I just wanted to get traditionally published. So I sent out my full manuscript, let them, let the other outstanding agents know, hey, I got an offer for publication. And one of the agents who basically had me write like half of the book, she passed. And when I tell you, so I cried. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm pretty hard. Like I'm not like very sensitive. I mean, when you talk about psychopathy, I don't think it's a monolith. I think that there's, Vera, I know you said you don't do clinical work, but we might talk. We might. So I was like really super upset on Thursday. Monday, I get a call from my wonderful agent now, Beth Marche. I get, an email, and she's like, I want to represent you. I loved the book. And I called her, I spoke with her, and I spoke with another agent who offered representation, and I went with Beth. I'm so happy I did, and the rest is like literary history. So.
Nice. What about you, Vera?
This is actually the third book that I queried for an agent. I queried a literary novel before and a science fiction novel. And I'll be really honest, it's like the most soul-sucking thing like I've ever done, because I had set, somewhere between 250 and 300 queries before I ended up with my lovely agent who I can see in the corner. But you write the letters, and you research how to write the letter and who you should send it to, and you sometimes don't hear anything back. Sometimes you hear like, oh my God, I love this, but no. Or I don't know how to sell this. Or, I feel like I came kind of close a couple times with the other two books. And I found it like, honestly, it made me really depressed. And I thought after I wrote this book, I was like, if I can't get an agent for this book, there's no book I can write I can get an agent for, because this book is very like viral and readable. And, if I can't get an agent for this, I'm just going to go back to writing short stories, because I'm actually pretty good at placing them. But when I had queried and Rebecca had asked to see the book, and I didn't answer her for like almost a year because I was rewriting the book. And then I was like, hey, remember me from a year ago, and then sent it to her. And then the rest is history.
So I have to ask then, now that you are published and kind of have that in with the publishing world, are you thinking about bringing those other two books back out? Like, will we be seeing those published?
I think the first one lived in this strange moment of time in the Obama administration. and it's not a political book. I just don't think it makes sense post 2016. I did steal those characters and put them in something else.
Oh.
For the science fiction thing, I'd like to do something really different with that. Like I have this whole storyline in my head. I don't know if it would necessarily be a book though. So we'll see. I've got lots of ideas.
Story, another short story kind of thing, or
I was kind of hoping like somewhere down the road a TV person would want this idea from me and I would give it to them.
After they gave you money, right?
Yeah, they'd have to give me money.
Yeah, don't just like give it away. Just like, you know what, I got this idea. You want to hear it? Here it goes.
No, the IP is not free.
Yeah, I know, right? Thank you. Thank you. The IP is not free. Let's get tattoos that say that.
So that brings me into another question. What are you guys working on right now? Do we have anything in the works that we can look forward to? Because I, after reading both of these, fully plan on buying basically whatever else you guys put out. So what's in the works outside of marketing your current books?
So I have a short story placed in a YA body positive anthology called Everybody Shines, edited by Cassandra Newbold, and it's out with Bloomsbury. And it was my first time ever writing YA. I don't know why it's like, this is the first time I'm going to do something. Let me just see what happens. Like,
you're not afraid to take chances, is what I'm hearing.
Hey, I'm not afraid to take chances, and God is extremely merciful. So my other book that's coming out is actually a prequel to Saving Ruby King, and it's called Becoming Sarah King. I essentially knew I was going to write this book when I was like writing this one particular scene, kind of nearer to the end in the church with Lebanon. You probably know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And when I was writing this particular scene, I like knew, and what my mom calls, not your gut, but your guzzles. I knew I'm a guzzles, that this is going to probably be the next story that I wrote. I pitched it to the wonderful Laura Brown. She acquired it and I wrote it. It took me 5 years to write Saving Ruby King. Oh, thank you, Jesus. Laura said she loves it. Thank you, Jesus. Okay, maybe no 30-page edit letters, maybe 15 pages, maybe 15.
That's awesome.
but yeah, so this takes place in Memphis in the 1960s, and it follows Lebanon's mom, Sarah King, kind of becoming the toxic legend that we kind of hate, but still find a way to love. And it's something that I'm extremely proud of. And like I said, it took me 5 years to write Saving Ruby King. It took me 5 months to write Becoming Sarah King. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had to tone that down. I was on deadline. I ain't had no choice. I had to get it in.
That'll get you every time.
That will. They paid, they gave me a check. I said, I gotta write it. Let me go ahead and write it. Okay.
Yeah, they kind of expect that to happen after they hand you money, huh?
Yeah. You would think because I'm pretty, but no.
All right, Vera, what about you?
I haven't really had time to write because of all the work on this book plus work. But I when I did have downtime in 2020, I started plotting another book, which is a dual timeline mystery, which may or may not have supernatural elements about
sorry, that like hits all of that checks all my boxes. So
I'm like,
it's about
Heather and I are on board.
The older timeline is they're 15 in 1995, which is when I was 15, and the newer timeline is when they're 35 in 2015, where they are in a small town in Pennsylvania and they may or may not have killed someone. And the new timeline finds out that the person that they've killed is actually still alive, and they have to figure out how did that happen, because we definitely killed him, or did they?
And And sold. Okay, well, I have 2 books that I will put some money aside for. That I know I will be purchasing very soon. Okay, now it's time for my lightning round, unless anyone has any other questions and throw anything out in chat. Otherwise, we're going to do a quick round of questions that, of course, we all want to know. And I'm sure you get asked these every time you do an interview, but we don't know the answers yet, so sorry. All right. Favorite book genre to read?
Either one.
Just jump in.
Literary, yeah.
I would say literary with some thriller elements for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, favorite book genre to write?
I would say literary with some genre elements.
I've been writing a little bit of everything now, but if I have to choose, I will say basically the types of books I write now: literary with heavy African American influence. Period. That's basically what I'm going to write.
Cool. All right. Favorite author growing up?
Stephen King.
Charles Dickens. That's how I learned what a plot twist was when I read Great Expectations, and you find out that the benefactor of Pip is the convict. It blew my mind. I knew it was Miss Havisham. I was like, it's Miss Havisham. I know it's Miss Havisham, and it was a convict. I said, no. So
spoiler alert, everyone. Spoiler alert.
Oh no.
Oh no. We're talking about a 350-year-old novel. Who knew?
Right. Sorry. All right.
Charles
Okay.
Dickens, A Christmas Carol. Yeah, Charles Dickens.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay. And I'm seeing the horror come out with Stephen King growing up. All right. And your favorite author now?
I know this question and I still hate answering it because I change it depending on how I feel. Like I want to say James Baldwin right now because I'm just rediscovering his work. But favorite modern author, I would say, is James Baldwin. Favorite author currently is Hanya Yanagihara. A Little Life Destroyed Me in the best possible way.
I'm saving that one for when I need a really, really, really depressing cry.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's one of those cries where you just gonna look at yourself in the mirror and just cry. Like it's one of them. So disappear.
Yeah.
I would say Elena Ferrante.
All right. Favorite book growing up?
Great Expectations.
Oh, still. Wow. I mean, that's a hard one. I'd probably say Stephen King's It, which I read every summer in high school.
Oof. I can't.
Long.
No, I can't. I'm a sensitive soul. All right. And favorite book now?
I mean, there's probably a few. I think the second Neapolitan or Elena Ferrante book, Story of the New Name, or I really love The Idiot by Elie Batuman, I think her name is, and Pachinko, which was also heartbreaking. All of those books are heartbreaking for different reasons. Yeah.
For me, yeah, I can't just pick one. So I have A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara, and I really, 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 really love Lisa Cross Smith. She's like awesome. So like the book that I have of her now, This Close to Okay, was phenomenal.
Great title.
Yeah, so it was like so very good. So like for me, it's kind of those. And like I said, I'm dealing with James Baldwin again, so I'm rereading like Giovanni's Room, Fire This Time, and then Octavia Butler. Like yeah, so like Octavia Butler. So then I also one of my favorite books is Kindred. So that was like oh my gosh,
I just read that one this year. Wow.
Yeah, like I was like, yeah, I can write, and then I read Kendra said, no, the hell I can't. So whatever, that is what that is.
All right, this will be our last question, and probably one of my favorites. What is the one piece of writing advice that you have been given over the years that really sticks with you?
This is like something kind of super specific, but I was told to me at a writing workshop by Daniel Torday, and he said, when you're revising, only do one thing in an entire draft at a time. So, I have to cut down the word count. That's all you do for that draft. I have to fix this person's POV to make the character sound younger. You go through the whole book, do that. Then that's it. That's all you're doing on that revision. The next revision, you're only doing one thing per revision. That way you don't open the book and say, guess I have to fix everything at the same time. Just go through one at a time. So especially if you're doing a multiple POV book, I would read all of the Chloe sections together to be like, does the voice make sense? Or I would read just for the structural plot points to be like, does the mystery make sense? So I'm not worrying about the dialogue when I'm just reading about the plot. So one thing at a time per revision.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay, Catherine, what about you?
Well, like, I learned that everybody is different. So like every writer's journey is different.
Yeah.
Every way that they decide to write is different. So what Vera was saying works for Vera, and Vera is brilliant. Okay. But see, that doesn't work for me because I have to multitask. You know what I mean? Because if I see something at that point and I want to change it, I change it. You want to know why? Because I'm over 40 and the system may forget. So let me just go ahead and change this now, and let me go ahead and edit what I need to edit now. So for me, everybody is different. Every road is different. Every writer is different. And I know I keep using this word, we're not a monolith. The other piece of writing, or the other piece of writing advice, I mean, I just apply that to writing and to life. And, my grandma, my mom, people in my life have told me this at some point in time in different words and in different ways, but don't quit. The world literally, as a Black woman, the world isn't going to necessarily care about my tears. Okay. So cry if you have to, but then dry them, figure out a plan, and move on. That happens in writing and that happens in life. So for me, that's how I have to kind of live my life, and that's how I write. Like, this isn't working for me literary wise. Like, be frustrated, get angry, figure out a plan, move on, do what you need to do. So
nice. I've decided, Catherine, that you need to create a line of like slogan t-shirts and stickers, please. I could have listed like 3 or 4 that I would purchase myself throughout this hour. And speaking of, we're a little bit over, but thank you guys so much, Catherine and Vera. I have had the best time chatting with you all. I hope that everyone goes and buys their books, because I will definitely actually be reading them again because I'm a rereader. Yes. But yeah, thank you so much for those of you who have copies of the book. Please hold them up so we can take some pictures. So Josh, if you will take us back to grid mode, we can get everybody's pictures, and let's see, maybe I can do